Chapter 68-22. They all knew very well that Hong Zhuang's choice to participate in the array formation master competition this time was completely beyond her ability. From the beginning until now, she actually had no intention of participating. If Fan Guangshuan had not left, Bailey Hongzhuang would not have participated at all. However, it was this kind of person who had no confidence in her array formation skills that actually obtained second place? Was this a joke? Shen Duanyu was completely dumbfounded. He could not believe the words on the ranking list at all. Bailey Hongzhuang was second place? An alchemist had obtained second place? There was something wrong with the detector, right? Qin Jian, Zhen Gudao, and the rest all fell silent. The entire venue was incomparably quiet. Their first reaction was not shock, but suspicion that there was something wrong with the detector. City Lord Qin, has this detector not been repaired for a long time? Zhen Gudao asked. Qin Jian thought about it and shook his head. It can't be. For this competition, I even sent people to specially check it a while ago. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be any problems. That's impossible. There must be a problem. Zhen Gudao's voice was certain. How can an alchemist obtain second place? I was saying that Sir Fan's ranking was not quite right. So it was a problem with the detector. Fan Xian nodded slightly, and his expression looked better. If his own son lost to an alchemist in array formation skills, wouldn't it become a joke if word got out? Ning Tian and Shen Xing looked at each other. In the face of everyone's confirmation, the two of them did not open their mouths to refute, because this result was indeed a little too fantastical. Why don't I send someone to check it? Qin Jian said hesitantly. In the array formation master competition that was held once every 10 years, if such a problem occurred in the grading, it would indeed be quite terrible. Zhen Gudao nodded repeatedly. This has to be cleared up before we can give everyone justice. Ning Tian, the heavens might have seen that you've lost all your face, so they purposely gave you a surprise. Zhen Gudao laughed softly. Unfortunately, this is a fake surprise. Ning Tian glanced coldly at the smug Zhen Gudao, his eyes full of displeasure. However, looking at the ranking list above, he was somewhat puzzled. If there really was a problem with the detector, then wasn't this too much of a coincidence? Miss Bailey, you're second place? Even Shihai's words were a little shaky. He had studied array formation skills for so many years, but had never interacted with an array master in the top 10. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang, whom he was worried about just a moment ago, would suddenly become second place? Bailey Hongzhuang was also somewhat puzzled. She really had not communicated with others about array techniques, and she had no understanding of her own level of array techniques. If Bei Qin is in first place, then I might be in second place. Bailey Hongzhuang was a little hesitant. She had also heard the discussion between the masters. It seemed like there was a problem with the detector. At this time, the first place, Qingyang City's Bei Qin. Along with the mention of this name, everyone was once again shocked. Their expressions became very interesting. Qingyang City is really amazing this time. They didn't even make it into the top 100 before, but now both first and second place are from Qingyang City. How impressive is that? No wonder Master Ning and Master Shun are so protective of them. This kind of strength is really too shocking. I've already checked it again, but I don't think there's anything wrong with the detector. However, to be fair, we can try it again now. How could there possibly be no problem? Zhen Gudao laughed lightly, clearly not believing it. The detector has been fixed. There are no problems now, so we'll start the test again. If you don't want to believe it, you won't believe it no matter how hard you try to fix it. At the end of the day, aren't you guys just doubting the strength of the top two? Isn't that simple? You just have to take out the formation stones crafted by the top 4, and we'll know once we judge. Chapter 68-25. Rather than that, they might as well directly examine the formation stones of these 4 people. As long as there was no doubt about it, it would prove that there was nothing wrong with the detector. Looking at Ning Tian's confident appearance, Zhen Gudao also had some doubts in his heart. However, he did not believe that Bei Qin and Bailey Hongzhuang would be so evil. There was definitely a problem. Let's do that, Zhen Gudao said with a nod. Fan Xian was also very much in agreement. This matter had to be clarified. Seeing that the 5 masters had already made their decision, Qin Jian immediately announced to everyone, because everyone has doubts about the strength of the top few people, we will now take out the formation stones of the top 4 for the 5 masters to personally examine. Although Qin Jian's words were polite, everyone present knew that these so-called doubts were merely doubts about Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's results. However, this was also the same doubt in everyone's hearts, so they were very supportive. This formation stone is going to be interesting. If Di Beichen and the others really have such a ranking, then they will really soar to the sky. Do you guys think that Di Beichen did something to the detector? Now that the 5 masters are examining it together, this kind of small trick will be directly exposed. In my opinion, there should be a problem with the detector. Everyone shook their heads. Everyone still did not believe that Di Beichen and the others could have such a result. If Bailey Hongzhuang was very doubtful at the beginning, then now after re-examining and discovering that the rankings were still the same, she was relieved. Senior Zhong Li's reputation was indeed not in vain. The formation skills that he taught them were really extraordinary. Di Beichen very casually pulled Bailey Hongzhuang to the side and sat down. Zhen Gudao won't give up so easily. Let's wait for them to examine it. Seeing that Di Beichen was not worried at all, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and said, "We seem to have underestimated Senior Zhong Li's strength. Could it be that he used to be a very powerful formation master in the Immortal region? When we reach the Immortal region, we will know." Di Beichen smiled faintly. These seniors all came from the Celestial Realm, so he would understand them better there. Soon, 4 array stones appeared before Ning Tian and the others. Everyone's eyes fell on the 5 masters, wondering what the results of the test would be. The 5 masters did not start from the first place. Instead, they started from Jiang Haihin's array stone. He is indeed very outstanding. Fan Xian inspected Jiang Haihin's array stone. He had already taken note of all the important points of a first-grade array stone. There were only a few minor flaws. In fact, apart from the experienced array masters, almost all young array masters had these questions. Chapter 68-27. Although Zhen Gudao and the others hadn't checked Di Beichen's array stone yet, they could tell from Xin Xing's amazed expression that Di Beichen deserved the first place. "Let me take a look." Ning Tian was also very interested. He directly took the array stone from Xin Xing's hand and examined it carefully. He knew that Di Beichen's ingenuity in the field of array stones was much better than the young array masters he usually saw. For example, the last time Di Beichen made a trap array. Overall, the process of making it was not very complicated. What was complicated was how he thought of how to superimpose these arrays. Although the basic array techniques were the same, most array masters were only good at common array techniques. In fact, array techniques could be innovated and layered. It was just that many array masters couldn't do this. In fact, array masters who could layer array techniques were often people with extraordinary talent. Di Beichen had just learned array techniques not long ago, but he could layer array techniques and achieve such an effect. This in itself was very amazing. After checking Di Beichen's array stone, Ning Tian's expression was similar to Xin Xing's. This performance really surprised them. Not only did they not find any problems with this first-grade array stone, but on the contrary, it was stronger than other array stones of the same level. It was stronger than the one made by Bailey Hongzhuang. These two are really a pair. The effect of the elixir refined by Bailey Hongzhuang is stronger than usual, and the array stone made by this kid is stronger than usual. What a perfect match. Ning Tian smiled, and the corners of his eyes couldn't help but curve upward. This was really a surprise. At this moment, Fan Xian also abandoned his original opinion of Beichen and Xin Xing. In the face of a truly talented array master, he still admired them very much. Although this kind of result blocked Fan Ziheng's path, even he couldn't say anything bad about the array stone made. Shen Duanyu had been paying attention to the changes in the expressions of the 5 masters. He only hoped that there was a problem with the detector. Otherwise, if this was really the result, how could he live? However, When he saw Zhen Gudao's increasingly ugly expression, a bad premonition gradually rose in his heart. In contrast, Ning Tian and Xin Xing were extremely elated. Could it be that the results were real? When Zhen Gudao personally examined the formation stones created by Bewitching, his heart was also filled with shock. To be able to create such a high level of array formation, it was impossible to say that there was no expert guiding them from behind. Although it was only a first-grade array stone, because it was too common, it was very difficult to make a first-grade array stone surpass others. If it was said that a grassroots array master could achieve this, it would be no different from a fantasy. Chapter 6828. Grandmaster Zhen, you've already personally inspected this array stone. You shouldn't have any doubts about this result, right? Ning Tian was all smiles as she looked at Zhen Gudao. This smile that was as brilliant as a peach blossom was simply dazzling to the extreme in his eyes. If there's any problem, it's better for you to check it clearly now. Otherwise, if there's any doubt later, wouldn't that be troublesome? Zhen Gudao looked at Ning Tian with a malicious gaze. This guy could be said to have turned over a new leaf and was very pleased with himself. This array stone was right there. Even if he wanted to find fault with it, he couldn't. Wasn't he just trying to squeeze him by saying this? No, Zhen Gudao said sullenly. The smile on Ning Tian's face became even more pleased. Previously, I don't know who it was that we valued who didn't have any ability at all. As a person, you can't be too full of yourself. Otherwise, retribution will come too quickly. That would be very embarrassing. When he said this, Ning Tian didn't look at him, but everyone present knew very well that Ning Tian was talking about Zhen Gudao. Zhen Gudao's face was already as black as the bottom of a pot. He knew that this guy definitely didn't have anything good to say. Who asked him to be so close? Now, Ning Tian was just taking revenge on him. On the side, Fan Xian was also silent. Who would have thought that there would be such a contrast in the end? Even he found it hard to believe. After seeing that the 5 grandmasters had confirmed this result without a doubt, Qin Jian stood up and announced, after the 5 grandmasters' confirmation, the results on the ranking board are the correct results. Congratulations to the array masters on the board. Following Qin Jian's words, the scene first fell into a momentary silence, which was quickly followed by bursts of exclamations. My God, this result is actually real. I told you Bewitching and the others are capable, right? You guys were still refuting me just now. Now you know who's speaking the truth. The cultivators who were originally squeezed out by everyone because they spoke up for Bewitching and Ning Tian suddenly felt as if they had turned over a new leaf. All their grievances were swept away at this moment. The feeling of exaltation made them feel refreshed. When they looked at Bewitching and Ning Tian again, they only felt that they were more pleasing to the eye. The more they looked, the more they worshipped them. Who would have thought that this would be the result? These are really 2 dark horses. Everyone else also turned around, although they felt their faces hurt when they said this. Sis, hit me. I feel like I'm hallucinating. I'm not rational anymore. Yang Lingfeng turned his head with a blank expression. Although he had heard everything clearly, why did he feel that it was so unreal? Pa! Yang Qinshues slapped Yang Lingfeng's shoulder hard. Fan Guangshuan was the one who had been the most ridiculous when talking about this matter, causing them to believe him. Now that the other party had used his strength to prove everything, they realized that they had been tricked. Fan Guangshuan's face alternated between green and white. Faced with everyone's disdainful gazes, he only wished that he could dig a hole in the ground and hide. Damn Bewitching. He clearly has such strength, yet he pretends that he doesn't. It's all for the sake of luring people into a trap. He's absolutely detestable. Fan Xian's expression. They were worried when they first thought. When they thought. Chapter 6843. I've never participated in the Array Master Assessment before, so just like Bewitching, I don't know my own level. What's more, I'm very clear that my level is much worse than Beichen's, so I naturally think so. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. In fact, she was very surprised by this result. It was as if something that she thought was extremely difficult had suddenly become very simple. At least, the difficulty of this test was much easier than she thought. You're all too modest. Yang Lingfeng said in high spirits. Did you notice Shen Duanyu's expression today? It was simply too wonderful, I don't even know how to describe it, This guy really doesn't have eyes. He actually wants to compete with Beichen, this time his face is swollen. Bai Qingli said neither quickly nor slowly, Shen Duanyu is not a person who will give up easily. Looking at his appearance today, I know it won't be easy to stop. I just don't know what kind of punishment he will receive after the competition ends tomorrow. Don't worry, Beichen and Hongzhuang have Master Ning's protection, how could they be afraid of him? Yang Lingfeng said with a proud face, he was Master Zhen's disciple before, so we had to be careful. Now that he no longer has this identity, he can't even compare to an ordinary array master. That's true, as long as we're careful and don't fall for his tricks, it'll be fine. Yang Qinxue looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Yang Lingfeng's calm and casual appearance and couldn't help but ask, today's third test is really too abnormal. I saw that many array masters didn't even know how to write. How are you guys doing? Are you confident? Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other tacitly. Although they hadn't talked about this matter, they noticed each other's eyes and understood. It's okay. Di Beichen said lightly. Yang Qinxue originally wanted to say something, but Yang Lingfeng gave her a look and she closed her mouth. Sister, aren't you just touching the pot that doesn't boil? We all know that Beichen and Yang Lingfeng hurriedly wrote down the results before the competition ended, so how could they have a good result? If they could really understand it, they would have written it down long ago. Writing it so late was obviously pushing a duck to a perch. Although there were many array masters who did this. In another place. Duanyu, what should we do now? The man's face was full of anxiety. Shen Duanyu's face was ashen. Even now, he was still unwilling to believe what had happened today. The results haven't come out yet? The man couldn't help but worry. If the results, how can you come back? Grandmaster Ning's temper is not simple. Today's matter has clearly angered the two grandmasters, so your punishment will certainly not be light. Now, why don't you take the chance? There was a storm, S's. Master, I know you are very interested now, but we have to announce the acceptance tomorrow. There is still so much content left to be graded. Why don't we finish reviewing these first, and then we can work together to create the array? What do you think? 5 pairs of eyes landed on Qin Jian, causing him to feel a deep sense of pressure. After a short while, Shen Xing said, that's right. The most important thing today is the evaluation. As for this attempt, there will be many more opportunities after tomorrow. Qin Jian heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Shen Xing had changed her mind. As expected, Master Shen had the best temper among the 5 masters. Chapter 6848. Incredible, truly incredible. The 5 of them were immersed in their own thoughts. This kind of paper was simply impossible to nitpick. Say, for this person to be able to see through so much, could it be that he has come into contact with this array before? Zhen Gudao was a little doubtful. If one did not have a certain level of understanding, it would be very difficult to see through everything within 2 hours. So what if he has come into contact with it? None of us were able to understand it, Ning Tian countered with a question. Zhen Gudao was stunned. This was also the truth. Even if someone had come into contact with this array before them, to be able to answer all of this was his own ability. He really is a genius. I'm curious as to what kind of person he is. Fan Xian sighed emotionally. For such a genius, if he really relied on his own judgment, then his future development would really be limitless. As array masters, they knew very well that the grade was not a problem for the time being. Intelligence, wisdom, and extraordinary eyesight were often more important. If he could see through all of this with his current level of skill, then as long as he put in a little more effort in the future, his achievements in this area would certainly not be lacking. This was because one's grade could be raised through one's own efforts, but judgment and imagination were not something that could be achieved through hard work alone. For a moment, those few fourth-rank array masters appeared in the minds of all the masters, and they pondered which two people would have such a performance. It was just that no matter how they thought about it, they could not think of who was more suitable. When the results are announced tomorrow, we will know. Shen Xing smiled faintly. He also wished that he could immediately know who had written it, but this was against the rules. Fortunately, the results would be announced tomorrow, and they would naturally know the results. Fan Xian could not help but sigh. He originally thought that Ziheng would definitely be the well-deserved first place in this competition. He never thought that there would really be crouching tigers and hidden dragons this time. In the first round, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang stood out and stole Ziheng's limelight. Fortunately, he finally won back in the second round. He originally thought that there should not be anyone who could surpass him in the third round, but who would have thought that two such geniuses would appear? It was clearly impossible to obtain first place this time. However, faced with this kind of answer, he could not find any fault with it. He did not even have any thoughts of fighting for justice for Fan Ziheng, because this kind of genius was already not something that they could stop. After the doubts in the hearts of the five masters were completely resolved, everyone continued with the grading no longer seemed so anxious. Chapter 68-52. All of the spell formation masters who had a chance of winning held their breaths as they stared at the names that appeared. When they realized that their names weren't on the list, they had mixed feelings. On one hand, they were disappointed that their names weren't on the list. On the other hand, they hoped that they would be able to win a higher ranking. Yang Qinxue clenched her fists. She was even more nervous than if she were the one participating in the competition. "Sister, don't be so nervous," Yang Lingfeng said. Yang Qinxue took a deep breath and inhaled the fresh air. She had forgotten how long she had been holding her breath. "You're right. There's no point in being nervous." Yang Qinxue was amused. She had been in the chaotic immortal realm for so many years and had experienced all kinds of situations. Now that she was waiting for the results, she actually forgot to breathe. She turned to look at Yang Lingfeng. She didn't think that her younger brother would be so calm. However, when she turned to look at him, she discovered that Yang Lingfeng was trembling. "Brother, why are you trembling?" "I'm panicking. I don't want to." Yang Lingfeng placed his hand on his thigh. He wanted to press it down, but he discovered that his hand had started to tremble. Yang Qinxue. She was overthinking. "Stop trembling. You're embarrassing yourself. Who would notice me now? I can't control my fucking legs." Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen, Yang Han had already turned his head. Clearly, he didn't want to look at his son and daughter. There are already 50 names on the list, but they still haven't appeared. Yang Lingfeng looked at Di Beichen nervously and said, "Don't be nervous. Your results will definitely be better." Di Beichen, "I'm not nervous." "Don't pretend, I understand." Yang Lingfeng patted Di Beichen's shoulder, his face showing that he understood. Di Beichen, Bailey Hongzhuang stared at the names that kept appearing. She was also thinking about Beichen's results. Although her results for the second round were slightly worse, she believed that Beichen's answers for the third round would not be bad. Overall, it should not be a problem for her to enter the top 10. As for herself, she was a little uncertain, but this was not very important to her, because this result had already exceeded her initial expectations. No matter what kind of results they achieved, they would not be a burden. 14th place, Myriad Water City's Shen Duanyu. Shen Duanyu had been staring at the rankings. The moment he saw his name, his face turned ashen. According to his judgment, no matter how bad Di Beichen's final result was, it was impossible for him to exceed the top 100. His name had appeared, while Di Beichen's name had not. This proved that his overall score was still better than his. This result made him feel even worse than Jiang Haihan winning first place. "Duanyu, what should we do?" Judging from the blank expressions of the other array formation masters, her results shouldn't be bad. However, her results hadn't appeared yet, so she was a little puzzled. 10th place, Bailey Hongzhuang of Qingyang City. Hua. When the name on the ranking board was magnified, the entire viewing gallery could not help but erupt into exclamations. Bailey Hongzhuang? Wasn't she 50th place in the second round? How is it possible that her total score is ranked 10th?